I feel there should be like a WordPress for WooCommerce version or different distributions that allows you to specifically have all those features that are only dedicated to a specific area, and obviously specifically WooCommerce, right? There's so much code that we don't use and that we have to actually code to strip out or to unplug or turn off when we're worried about performance and having that specific use case delivered, that I think maybe there should be somewhere like a split in terms of source code. There should be different dedications, different packages, whatever you want to call them, so that it fits a certain need, right? That's where I think it should go to.
Hey everyone, it's Roger with Kinsta. Today I'm joined by a new, but also an old friend, Marcel. Hey Marcel, how are you?
Hey, Roger, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well. It's the start of my day here. It's the end of your day there. So we're contrasting well here. I
Exactly.
say old friend because we did a podcast last year together on a Do the Woo episode where you interviewed one of my colleagues about support stuff, but a new friend in that I don't really know anything about you other than that you're an amazing developer, you're a codable expert, you're a WordPress aficionado, and a podcasting genius. So help me fill in the gaps. Let's go back to the beginning. What
Yeah.
was prompted you to get into computers and programming and the internet?
Well, if we go that back, then we would need to go to 1993, where I got my first computer, Pentium
Okay.
2 or Pentium 3. And the
Nice.
first time that I got also contact with a the world of the internet in around 94 or 95, web internet. It's just simply fascinated me the fact that you can connect to this network and just get a bunch of services or information or any kind of connection between your computer and another one that is not in the same room. So from early on there, that fascination about how computers connect and communicate with each other and how you can provide information, be it through just simple messages or the beginning of the email or websites even. So that was a huge fascination for me. So the network component of the computer was what got me into programming, actually.
Excellent. All right. And I'm in the same boat, right? We got our first 386 computer in the 80s and then a 486. And then I think I switched to Macs around the time that Pentiums got big, but not digital natives, basically, right? And so
Right.
when the internet happened, yeah, it blew my mind too. So what like first prompted you? Did you start building websites or did you stay on the networking side? Where did you go with all this?
Well, actually went, so this happened when I was in around ninth grade, 10th grade in my school. And after I finished high school, I immediately started working in this web agency because I was really interested into learning more about HTML and CSS back then. And so I started in 1998 to work for this company that did some websites for universities here in Porto. And at that time, I graduated from German school. I had a huge connection to the school because they were starting to have their first computers in as well. So I was kind of like the only person, one of the few people who really knew about computers and how they work and how you could put them together to work. And so it started really both ways, networking on the school level and also on the programming part when I started first working as a web developer in 1998. So I can say maybe both sides like just went together with each other.
All right. And so at what point then, we got to go forward a few more years till WordPress got invented. But at
Yes.
what point did WordPress kind of get into your orbit?
Yeah, that was a little bit later. It was around mid 2011.
Okay.
I had worked with a Microsoft solution back then. It was ASP. I did that websites with Visual Basic back then for a couple of years, and it was just only in 2011 that I got to know WordPress. It was actually something that I was looking for to replace our custom-made CMS solutions that we had for different clients. And so when WordPress came along, it was pretty obvious from the beginning that you wouldn't need anymore to reinvent the wheel and build a CMS out of the box, and that would become very quickly a quick solution to our customers back then.
Excellent. Was there any reason WordPress versus like a Drupal? Since you were more technical, it seems to me like
Mhm.
Drupal might have been more appealing to you.
Right. WordPress was a choice because back then I also did some websites for families' businesses. I had the opportunity to spin up a couple of websites for some family members that were starting their businesses in Portugal. And so one of them mentioned WordPress, and he found out about that, and he wanted me to take a look at it. And so it was something that somebody else told me about, and I didn't even consider any other platform. I just looked at that one. They wanted to have the website built with WordPress, and I just said, yeah, I'm just going to dive in and see how this works. And just then immediately, I figured out how I could use this in a more professional way.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. And so at what point did becoming a Codable expert become part of your world?
Right. So after I did a couple of websites for family businesses and also started like changing a little bit my way of working, this all happened while I still was doing some IT work in the school where I went to, right? So the German school here in Porto, they didn't have any IT guys. So I spent, after I graduated in 1998, I spent almost about 17 years working for them as an IT person. Back then I built a company as well and had some other people helping me out. But at the same time, they wanted a website. They wanted internal systems. Back then we had SharePoint and we had other systems from Microsoft that were very expensive. So we made a couple of custom ones. And it was when I decided to leave the school and these IT services and world, it was when I created a small agency called HelloDev back then. And it was sort of like my first contact really professionally with developing WordPress-based solutions to customers. And within that process of starting that company and that agency, that Codable came along. We eventually wanted to expand our company and have more leads coming in. So we were looking at other platforms that existed back then. That was 8 years ago, 9 years ago, maybe. And and so Codable just came in as an option for us to get more leads. So I signed up in the name of the company. We got some leads from there. And then it's sort of like was tired of just managing a lot of people as an agency owner, and I was more involved taking care of them other than typing code myself. And I eventually started hating that part, and I eventually sold the company and then just decided to dedicate full time to Codable and being a freelancer.
That's wonderful, and I parallel somewhat with that. I had a not successful agency life. But what compounded to me was just all of the things that you have to constantly be doing, and so little of it involves the work, which is the reason that I got into doing it to begin with. So I applaud you for like knowing yourself and realizing that, and I hope more people can kind of come to that realization maybe sooner in their careers, but to each their own. We all have to learn this on our own. So one of the ways that we know each other as well is through your usage of Kinsta.
Yes.
Is there anything, just a quick highlight, that really makes Kinsta an appealing platform for you to utilize in your work?
Well, there are two main areas, or two main reasons why I think Kinsta is, for me, the best platform right now. One of them is e-commerce. We haven't mentioned. I can call myself a WooCommerce expert. I have done WooCommerce for quite a few years now, and I have done some deep dives into performance, into optimizations, and customizing plugins and all of that. And so I think Kinsta is one of the fastest hostings and developer-friendly hosting companies out there, which allow my websites to run faster. I know that running faster is a very large topic, and I made a couple of podcast episodes about performance and WooCommerce back at the Woo website. But mainly Kinsta is, for me, from all the other hostings that I've tried, the tools that I have as a developer, the way that we deploy websites and the way that they run and the way that everything is configured in a way that is very WooCommerce friendly, that for me was the reason number one. And together with that, the New Relic option that you can connect to your New Relic application and you can monitor everything, that for me is life-changing. I'm worried about performance and wanting to pick what's happening under the hood, other than just commenting code and refreshing the page until it works. That for me is absolutely gold. And I kind of find strange why nobody else is doing that as well, because it's just obvious that it's the greatest tool ever.
That's great to hear. I know our team's going to love hearing all of this feedback. And I think that the application performance monitoring that you're pointing at, like New Relic is a version of that. We have a homegrown version as well. And it is very interesting how often I talk with developers, people who actually work in code, and they're not using tools like this. They're using like GT metrics. They're like, oh, GT metrics is showing me I'm really fast. I'm like, you realize that's only half of the picture. right? Like you're not seeing the database calls and the functions being used. So that's really great to hear. We love really focusing on developers and workflows and making sure that it's the smoothest experience possible. As you're moving forward, it sounds like WooCommerce is a big part of your work. Where else do you see kind of WooCommerce and WordPress headed to next? Where would you like to see them headed to next so that you can help your clients even more?
Well, I've talked about this with many people. I think that we reach a certain point where both WordPress and WooCommerce's distribution schema, or the way that we implement and download different plugins and the WordPress itself, it needs to be changed in a way that we have out-of-the-box features that are really dedicated to wherever that specific website needs to do, right? So we're still in an era where we install WordPress and WooCommerce, and we get a posts table, or we get comments in posts, or we get a sort of like a lot of legacy features that we got throughout the whole years. I feel there should be like a WordPress for WooCommerce version, or different distributions that allows you to specifically have all those features that are only dedicated to a specific area, and obviously specifically WooCommerce, right? There's so much code that we don't use and that we have to actually code to strip out or to unplug or turn off when we're worried about performance and having that specific use case delivered, that I think maybe there should be somewhere like a split in terms of source code. There should be different dedications, different packages, whatever you want to call them, so that it fits a certain need, right? That's what I think it should go to. I don't think WooCommerce is a plugin anymore, right? We use WooCommerce as a tool to build a website, and not as a plugin in terms of it's extending something that we use as a base for.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a very interesting point because, yeah, once you have WooCommerce installed, the way you think of that site is this is now a WooCommerce website. Like you're not like, oh, I'm still blogging and doing all these other things. It's like, no, I'm selling things. So
Yeah.
that's really an interesting insight, and I love, I just talked with Brian Jackson about his plugin Perf Matters, and that does, it strips out aspects of core to make it more performant. So
Right.
very interesting conversation here. We're getting close on time here. I like to keep these short and sweet. If people want to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to reach out to you and interact with you?
Right. So I have a website, marcelschmitz.com. Over there, you can get all my socials and my contact. My agency, it's called pluginslab.com, and you can also find me on Codable. If you search for my first and last name, which are my only names, I only have two first and last name, you'll find me everywhere in the internet, and LinkedIn and Twitter, or X, how it's called today. So yeah, feel free to reach out.
Excellent. And will you be at WordCamp EU this year?
I will. I won't miss any WordCamp Europe for the foreseeable future, if I can.
Wonderful. I will see you there, and I appreciate your time, and it's lovely to talk to you.
Thank you so much for the invite, and see you soon. Bye-bye.